Welcome to this deep dive, where we're going to be digging into all the fascinating stuff that you've researched about indoor gardening.
Yeah.
We're talking everything from like the psychological benefits of it
Right.
to specific plant recommendations and care tips to even propagation techniques and sustainable practices.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot to cover.
It is.
But by the end of this,
Yes.
you'll have all the knowledge you need
Yeah.
to really make your indoor garden thrive.
And it's more than just a hobby.
Yeah.
These sources really delve into like the science behind why we're drawn to plants.
Yeah.
This concept called biophilia.
Right. I've heard that term.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, I don't really get it. Is it like some kind of mystical plant energy?
Not quite. It's
Okay.
actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Humans just have a fundamental biological need to connect with nature.
Okay.
Like it's woven into our very being.
Right.
And so indoor plants are a way to fulfill that need,
Okay.
especially in our increasingly urbanized world.
So it's like bringing a piece of the wilderness indoors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the research goes beyond aesthetics, too,
Yeah.
into the actual mental health benefits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that caring for plants
Mm-hmm.
can reduce stress and anxiety,
Yeah.
even improve focus and productivity.
Really?
Yeah, there's even a case study here
Oh, wow.
about how cultivating like a miniature indoor garden
Okay.
helped someone cope with a particularly difficult period.
Oh, wow. What happened?
This person was going through a major career change
Oh, okay.
and felt really overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And they describe how the routine of tending to their plants
Like,
offered them this sense of stability and purpose
Yeah.
during that time of uncertainty.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So plant care is self-care in a very real sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I know you've been meticulously studying these sources.
Mm.
What are some key takeaways for someone like me?
Okay.
You know, someone who wants to become like a successful plant parent.
Well, first, it's about understanding your space.
Okay.
Each of these sources emphasizes light levels,
Right.
humidity,
Mm-hmm.
and the actual space you have available as
Yeah.
really crucial factors.
Okay.
Yeah.
I live in a pretty small apartment
Mm-hmm.
with not a ton of natural light.
Okay.
Are there any plants that can thrive
Yes,
in, let's say, less than ideal conditions?
definitely.
Okay.
A few sources recommend starting with what they call low-maintenance superstars.
Okay.
Things like snake plants,
Oh, yeah.
ZZ plants, and
Mm.
pothos.
I love pothos.
Yeah.
They're like the gateway plant.
They are. They're
Yeah.
nearly indestructible,
Uh-huh.
and they look great in almost any setting.
Okay, so that's good news for beginners like me.
Yeah.
And speaking of plants that thrive in less than ideal conditions,
Yeah.
what about that NASA study that's mentioned?
Right.
The one about air-purifying plants.
Right. That study was fascinating.
Yeah.
It turns out some plants, like peace lilies,
Mhm.
can actually remove harmful pollutants from the air.
Really?
It's not just about making a room smell nice.
Right.
They're actively breaking down volatile organic compounds
Mm-hmm.
through a process called phytoremediation.
Phytoremediation.
Yeah.
What?
Essentially, the plant absorbs these harmful chemicals
Oh, yeah.
through its leaves and roots,
Okay.
and then microorganisms living in the soil
Mm-hmm.
break those compounds down into less harmful substances.
So it's like a natural air purifier.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's making me rethink my entire apartment decor.
I know, right?
But I have to admit,
Yeah.
even with these easy plants,
Mm-hmm.
I still worry about messing things up.
Okay.
What are some basic care tips
Yeah.
that everyone should know?
All the sources emphasize the importance of understanding the fundamentals,
Right.
watering,
Yeah.
light, and nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
They're all interconnected and crucial
Got it.
for a plant's well-being.
I know I've definitely overwatered plants in the past.
Yeah.
You know, that whole more water's better mentality.
Right.
What's the best way to know
Yeah.
when a plant actually needs a drink?
The finger test is consistently mentioned.
Okay.
Simply stick your finger about an inch into the soil.
Okay.
If it feels dry, it's time to water.
Right.
If it's still moist,
Okay.
hold off.
The finger test,
Yeah.
simple yet effective.
Yeah.
I can handle that.
Good.
Now, what about light?
Okay.
How do you know if your plant is getting enough or too much?
Most indoor plants, especially the ones we've talked about,
Right.
prefer bright, indirect light.
Okay.
Think of it like the light you'd find on a shady forest floor.
Got it.
Too much direct sunlight
Right.
can actually scorch their leaves.
Oh, okay. So bright, but indirect.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And what about propagation?
Okay.
One of the sources talked about growing new plants from cuttings.
Yeah.
Is that really as easy as it sounds?
It can be.
Okay.
Certain plants like pothos or spider plants are very easy to propagate.
Okay.
Basically, you take a cutting from a healthy stem
Okay.
and place it in water.
Uh-huh.
Roots will develop,
Okay.
and you'll have a brand new plant.
Free plants. I'm all for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a particular technique for taking the cuttings?
A couple of the sources mention using a sharp,
Okay.
clean knife or scissors.
Right.
You want to make a clean cut just below a leaf node,
Okay.
which is where the leaves attach to the stem.
Got it.
And it's important to use a healthy stem,
Right.
not one that's wilting or damaged.
Okay. I'm getting the sense that observation is a key theme here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Paying attention to the subtle cues your plants are giving you
Yeah.
is crucial for successful indoor gardening.
Yeah, this is all so fascinating. I already feel like I'm leveling up my plant game,
I love that.
but there's so much more to explore. Yeah, there is.
Especially when it comes to design and sustainability.
Right.
Where do we go from here?
Well, let's dive into how to create a visually appealing indoor garden
Okay.
that not only looks great,
Mm-hmm.
but also aligns with eco-conscious practices.
Lead the way.
Yeah.
I'm ready to greenify my space
Love it.
in a stylish and sustainable way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. So we've covered the basics of plant care.
Mm-hmm.
But what about design?
Right.
Like, how do you actually arrange plants
Okay.
to make a space look amazing?
Yeah.
And is it possible to, like,
Mm-hmm.
design an indoor garden that's both stylish and sustainable?
Absolutely.
Okay.
A few of these sources talk about like the principles of design.
Okay.
Like using the rule of threes
Hmm.
for visual balance.
Oh, the rule of three.
Yeah.
Okay.
So grouping plants in odd numbers, like 3 or 5,
Okay.
creates a more natural and dynamic look.
Interesting. So it's not just about
Oh, yeah.
scattering plants randomly throughout a room.
Yeah. There's actual strategy involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
There's thought behind it.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
another design tip that comes up
Right.
is this idea of statement plants.
Oh, yeah.
So these are like larger, more dramatic plants
Right.
that act as focal points
Yeah, exactly.
in your indoor garden.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you'd have your statement plants
Mhm.
and then surround them with smaller
Mm.
complementary plants.
Exactly. It creates layers and visual interest.
Cool.
And speaking of sustainability,
Yeah.
one source talks about incorporating repurposed materials
Oh, wait.
into your indoor garden design.
Like what?
Give examples.
Things like using old wooden crates as planters,
Okay.
turning vintage teacups into mini succulent gardens.
Cute.
Mm.
Or even hanging plants in macrame holders made from recycled yarn.
Right.
Okay, so it's about getting creative and
Yeah.
thinking outside the traditional pot.
Exact.
That's right up my alley. I love that.
But what about the plants themselves?
Yeah.
Are there ways to
Yeah,
make our plant choices more eco-friendly?
definitely.
Okay.
Several sources emphasize the importance of choosing plants
Okay.
that are well suited to your climate and growing conditions.
Right, because if you're constantly battling
Right.
to keep a plant alive,
Mm-hmm.
that's not very sustainable
Yeah.
in the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And another suggestion is to consider supporting
Okay.
local nurseries or plant swaps.
Well, plant swaps.
Yeah.
I love plant swaps.
That way you're reducing the carbon footprint
Right.
associated with transporting plants long distances.
I love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Supporting local businesses and getting new plants.
Right.
Win-win.
It is.
But let's get back to plant care for a moment.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that
Yeah.
seasonal changes can affect indoor plants.
They do.
Yeah. I'm curious to learn more about that.
Okay.
Because they're not exactly exposed to the elements.
Right. But things like light levels and humidity
Right.
still change throughout the year,
Okay.
even indoors.
Right.
For example, many plants enter a period of dormancy.
Dormancy.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
It's essentially a time of rest and reduced growth.
Oh,
So during dormancy,
Mhm.
plants need less frequent watering
okay.
and might even shed some leaves.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like their version of hibernation.
Kinda. Yeah.
But what about light?
Okay.
Don't plants need more light
You're right.
during the shorter winter days?
Yes. One source suggests moving plants closer to windows
Okay.
during the winter,
Right.
or even supplementing with grow lights if needed.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
So it's about being observant
Mm-hmm.
and adjusting our care routine
Right.
based on the time of year.
Exactly.
Okay. And what about things like fertilizing and repotting?
Okay.
Do those need to be adjusted seasonally as well?
Most sources recommend reducing or even stopping fertilization during the winter months
Okay.
when plants are dormant.
Makes sense. They
Yeah.
don't need as much fuel
Right.
when they're not actively growing.
Exactly.
What about repotting?
Spring is generally considered the best time to repot
Okay.
most indoor plants as they're coming out of dormancy
Right.
and ready for a growth spurt.
Okay, so spring cleaning for plants.
Exactly.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've been talking a lot about eco-friendly practices.
We have.
What are some specific things we can do to make our indoor gardening more sustainable?
Well, we touched on composting earlier.
Right.
That's a fantastic way to recycle kitchen scraps
Right.
and create nutrient-rich fertilizer for your plants.
And you mentioned that there are
Yeah.
indoor composting systems.
Yeah.
So you don't need a big backyard compost pile.
Exactly. There are worm composting bins,
Okay.
bokashi composting,
Okay.
and even electric composters that can break down food waste
Wow.
quickly and efficiently indoors.
I'm definitely going to look into that.
Yeah.
And what about water conservation? Other ways to water our plants more sustainably?
Absolutely.
Okay.
One source explains the concept of gray water.
Gray water. Yeah.
Which is gently used water from your shower,
Okay.
sink, or even your washing machine.
Wait, you can water your plants with shower water
Yes.
as long as you're using biodegradable soaps and cleaners.
Okay.
Gray water can be a great way to conserve water
Got it.
and reduce your environmental impact.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Hmm.
And what about using rainwater?
Okay.
Is that a good option?
Definitely.
Okay.
Collecting rainwater in barrels or buckets
Mm-hmm.
is another excellent way to conserve water
Right.
and provide your plants with a natural source of hydration.
Okay, so we've got composting,
Mm-hmm.
gray water,
Mm-hmm.
rainwater harvesting.
Hmm.
It sounds like there are a lot of ways
There
to
are.
make indoor gardening more sustainable.
Yeah. And speaking of connecting with nature,
Yeah.
one of these sources talks about the benefits of joining the online plant community.
Right.
Like, is that a thing?
It is.
Okay.
These communities can be incredibly supportive
Okay, cool.
and a great source of information and inspiration. You can find groups dedicated to specific types of plants,
Uh-huh.
share care tips,
Mm-hmm.
troubleshoot problems,
Right.
and even participate in virtual plant swaps.
Virtual plant swaps.
Yeah,
That sounds like fun.
it is.
I'm picturing like a whole online marketplace of
Yeah.
plant lovers
Mm-hmm.
trading cuttings and sharing their passion.
It's a great way to connect with like-minded people,
Yeah.
expand your plant collection,
Mm-hmm.
and learn from more experienced gardeners.
This deep dive has been so enlightening. I feel like I'm well on my way
Yeah,
to becoming a confident and eco-conscious plant parent.
I love it.
But let's be real.
Yeah,
Even with all this knowledge,
Mhm.
things can still go wrong.
they can.
What happens when our plants
Right.
start to look a little under the weather?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
No matter how attentive we are,
Mm-hmm.
plants can sometimes face challenges,
Right.
but these sources also offer insights
Okay, good.
into troubleshooting common plant problems.
Okay. Because I'm sure I'll need all the help I can get.
Right.
Let's dive into the world of plant problem solving.
Okay, let's do it.
So we've covered so much ground already,
We have.
but every plant parent knows
Yeah.
that sometimes things go wrong,
Right.
despite our best efforts.
Mhm.
What are some common problems we might encounter,
Okay.
and how can we become better plant problem solvers?
Well, the good news is that most plant problems
Okay.
can be traced back to a few key factors.
Okay.
Watering, light pests, or diseases.
Okay. Let's start with watering,
Okay.
since that seems to be a common theme.
Yeah.
We already talked about the finger test
Right.
to avoid overwatering.
Mhm.
But how do you know if you're underwatering?
A couple of sources highlight wilting
Right.
as an obvious sign,
Okay.
but also look for like dry, crispy leaf tips or even leaves that start to lose their vibrancy.
So it's really about paying attention to
Yeah.
the plant's overall appearance
Exactly.
and not just relying on a set watering schedule.
Right. Each plant is unique.
Right.
And its needs will vary
Yeah.
depending on the environment, the pot size,
Right.
even the time of year.
Now let's talk about pests,
Okay.
because those are things I definitely don't want to see
Yeah.
on my precious plants.
Right.
What are some common culprits?
Well, one of the sources actually has a really helpful section on this.
Okay.
It talks about common houseplant pests
Mm-hmm.
like spider mites,
Oh, yeah.
mealybugs,
Okay.
and aphids.
Those names alone are giving me the shivers.
I know.
How do you even know if you have them?
Early detection is key.
Okay.
Look for things like tiny webs,
Okay.
sticky residue on the leaves.
Or small discolored spots.
Got it.
And of course, if you see actual bugs crawling around,
Right.
that's a pretty clear sign.
Ugh. Okay, so regular plant inspections are a must.
They are.
What are some effective ways to deal with these pests
Okay.
if we do find them?
Thankfully, there are lots of natural solutions.
Okay.
Neem oil is mentioned in several sources
Okay.
as an effective and eco-friendly pesticide.
So you can actually find these things pretty easily.
Absolutely. Most garden centers carry them.
Okay.
And you can even find them online.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about diseases? Those seem a bit more serious.
They can be.
Yeah.
But like with pests, early detection is crucial.
Right.
Keep an eye out for things like unusual spots on the leaves,
Mm-hmm.
discoloration or wilting.
Right.
That can't be explained by watering issues.
So if a plant suddenly starts looking unwell
Right.
and it's not related to watering,
Right.
it could be a sign of a disease.
It could.
What do you do in that situation?
Oh, yeah.
Well, first, try to identify the specific issue.
Okay.
There are some great online resources
Mhm.
that can help with diagnosis.
Okay.
Once you know what you're dealing with,
Right.
you can take appropriate action,
Right.
which might involve adjusting your care routine,
Right.
using a fungicide,
Mm-hmm.
or even isolating the plant to prevent the spread
Right.
of the disease.
Wow. There's so much to learn.
There is.
It's really like becoming a plant detective.
It is. And the more you learn,
Yeah.
the more confident you'll become
Right.
in your ability to care for your plants
Mm-hmm.
and address any challenges that come up.
You know, it's really amazing how much information is packed into these sources.
Yeah.
We've gone from the psychological benefits
Yeah.
of indoor gardening
Right.
to design principles,
Mhm.
sustainable practices,
Yeah.
and now even troubleshooting
And
common plant
it's
problems.
a lot.
It's a lot to take in,
It is.
but it's also incredibly empowering. I feel like I can do this.
I think you can too.
I think so too.
Yeah,
And it's a journey
it is.
of continuous learning and discovery.
For sure.
So to everyone listening,
Yeah.
I encourage you to keep exploring, keep experimenting,
Yes.
and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.
Exactly.
The world of indoor gardening is waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Happy growing.
Happy growing.